Yes, hello and welcome to Premier League Overtime this week. You're joined by just myself, Sam Tugwell, this week. Unfortunately, the co-host of mine, Dougie McDonald-Taylor, ain't here this week. He's feeling a bit ill, so we'll get on with the rest of the show without him this week. So hope he's resting up at home and getting well. Of course, we've got plenty of basketball to get through. Round 20 has just been and gone, and we're not so far away from the finals now. Really close. Southern Sturt, Western Forestville, the big winners of the week. North Adelaide and Woodville, one each to them as well. They split between the men and women. Probably the first time in a long time as well, if you notice here, that Norwood's men and women have lost in the same round. Quite remarkable. They've been that successful for quite a long time. And so we're going to get stuck into those games, of course. From Saturday night at Morphett Vale, Southern Tigers and Norwood Flames. Let's just check this women's game out first, because a huge final quarter from the Tigers was the difference on Saturday night as they conquered the top of the table, Norwood Flames. They held a 10-point lead at the final break, Norwood, but unfortunately a 34-13 final term for the Tigers was a very big part of that game. They made the home crowd very happy indeed. Molly McKendrick starred 30 points, 8 rebounds. Taraya Cunningham had 21 and 7 as well. And for Norwood, Jess Good, a double-double, 25 points and 10 rebounds. A very big night indeed for the Tigers. And if we look at the ladder, as we will very shortly, they have certainly propelled themselves up the ladder. And we'll look at the men's game as well. I guess we expected a very close contest with Norwood and Southern facing up, but the Tigers certainly made a mess of that assumption. They blew out the Flames men by 37 points. Quite a remarkable scoreline in the end, 101-64. And if that doesn't stamp your authority on the eve of finals, I really don't know what will, because Mitch Creek, his 38 points and 13 boards certainly did show why the Tigers mean business at the moment at the end of the season. Starling, 11 points, 11 boards as well. And Dan Webber had 12, leading the Norwood Flames. Just quickly on Mitch Creek though, his top 2 performances scoring wise this season have in fact been against Norwood, 40 points in round 2 and his 38 points just the last weekend in round 20. So, and guess what? His 11th straight game with 25 plus points. So he is certainly flying at the moment, and heading into finals, that's exactly the sort of form you want to have in your side. So we crossed from Morphett Vale. Very big night indeed for the Tigers there. Over to St Clair, where Woodville took on North Adelaide. 2 very interesting games here. The Warriors in the women had a very big fighting spirit going into that game, and they came up against the Rockets, who were a little bit slowish, a little bit sluggish, didn't quite put in the buckets they would have, and I guess have slowed up a little bit in the last few rounds, perhaps with that young group maybe are tiring a little bit, but that's only an assumption right now, and almost pulled off a big upset there, the Warriors. It was a very big part of the game where Woodville led for most of that second half, but at the end, they just, a late charge from North did see them come out 5-point victors. So Tavasha Scott-Williams, 22 points, 17 boards, a huge contribution from Woodville. Not exactly the lone hand, but she did play a major role. Shannon Mackay, 20 points for the Rockets, and Opal Mader just off the slightest from a double-double, 17 points, 9 boards for her, as the Rockets get across the line and, in fact, shut off West Adelaide from a possible home final in second spot there. So that's what the Bearcats were playing for at Port Adelaide the other night. And despite them getting the win, they, unfortunately, with Southern and North both claiming wins there, has removed them from that race for second spot. So it'll be either Southern or North as they play each other this weekend, playing for that second spot on the women's table. So that's going to be a very intriguing matchup indeed. Okay, so crossing to the men's, Woodville. Nelson Kirksey did get the Warriors up like they needed to over the Rockets men. He had 19 points, 12 boards, certainly did lead the way, and his contribution saw his team get up by 15 points at home, and a very happy home crowd. And it won't be their last home game of the season, you won't think, perhaps with an elimination final hosting role perhaps coming up in the next week if they get up against, I think it's East. So they have a big role to play this weekend if they want to get a home final. Luke Mapunda had 24 points as well for the Rockets in their contribution there. So essentially that is round 20 in a nutshell. And we're going to take a look at round 21 very shortly. But first, of course, the ladders. And look, the women's, the Norwood Flames sitting atop. They won't be moved. West have lost, as we mentioned just before, their shot at second spot, since Southern and North will both need to claim, Southern or North will be claiming that spot depending on the winner there on Saturday night. So that's who Southern and North will be playing for the second spot. And if Forestville and West both win on the weekend, which is very likely, the loser of that Tigers and Rockets game could possibly slip down to 5th spot. So it's a very important win for either Southern or North in that regard. So we're going to take a very close look at that over the weekend and in overtime next week, because the finals are very much a close race at the moment. Let's take a look at the men's as well. Southern Tigers on the top, 19-1. They're flying, and a huge gap between them and second spot. The elimination final, of course, looming for Woodville at the moment. And with a win on the weekend, they could host that one as well, since either Sturt or Forestville have to lose, because they'll be playing each other on the weekend. So a double chance on offer for the Sabres and Eagles for whoever wins that one there as well. So a very tightly contested middle order in terms of the top 5 there in the men's as well. Just before we get to the fixtures for this round though, we might as well take a look at some of the events that are coming up. The Halls Woolacott Medal on Sunday the 4th of September, so that's the weekend before the grand final and the day after preliminary final action. That's at Morphettville Racecourse from 12 till 3 p.m, so head to the Premier League website for more details on that. And then the next week on the Saturday, it's the 10th of September, it is the Premier League Grand Finals, and we cannot wait to get stuck into that. 6 p.m, I believe, from Titanium Security Arena, the home of basketball here in South Australia, so don't forget to head on down to that. That's going to be a huge night indeed. So we're looking forward to all of that coming up in the next month. And now we might as well look at what's happening this weekend. Of course, the fixtures for round 21. This is what we've got ahead of you. The North Adelaide Rockets and Southern Tigers, Saturday the 13th of August. That is a huge one down at Hillcrest Stadium, so make sure you head on down to that, especially the women's. That is going to be a second spot playoff, and potentially one of those teams, the loser, will slide down to 5th. So huge ramifications for that one. Norwood taking on South Adelaide at Mars. Sturt take on Forestville at Pasadena. Austral Sports will be down there for that, so you'll catch all the highlights next week. Woodville taking on the Eastern Mavericks at St Clair, and Central Districts and the West Adelaide Bearcats up at Starplex Stadium. Plenty of basketball for you to catch, and we can't wait for your company next week as we bring you more Premier League overtime. Looking forward to the finals. We cannot wait. We'll catch you next week for more on the show. Bye for now.